Ayo.
That was a crazy hair day.
Oh man, why is it? Does it look clear? Doesn't it look a little?
It looks dark on your side.
I don't know.
Maybe you need to turn the tripod. Yeah.
Trying to get two people into a live is a little bit more
You want me to
challenging.
put my phone and then
Oh, it's fine, I
we do
think.
this side by side? Yeah, I'm gonna put full glasses.
Hi everybody.
You like it? Okay.
My lips are purple, teeth are purple, pretty sure. Anyway, Julian Fayard's my winemaker. He flew here from Napa. There's 20 some bottles of wine here, and we're going through the white, the rosé, the red, the estate, and we're kind of tasting some of the stuff that's going to get bottled here February, April, July, and then also the 2020 stuff, 2021
New harvest.
harvest, essentially. So, like this, for example, is all from one side of the property. My vineyard wraps all the way around, essentially, like a little mountain. And it's almost basically like one block, but it's called Block 1 and 2. And so each one of these are a section of that essentially big block, and they're just picked on different days. And it's amazing the difference. Like, all three of these are so different, but they'll go into the blend and make something special. So this chat is not necessarily about, is anyone saying I'm supposed to turn it? Please turn your phone. Okay. We're both, it's hard to get us both in.
Here. Oh, we'll squeeze in.
Okay. Now you can see us. So, I really truly feel like my lips are really purple.
Okay, kind of works.
I do want you all to know that this is how much wine I've spit out of red, and there was that much of one of white. So anyway, so it's quite the process. But
Keeping it professional.
yeah, scoot in. Okay, so the conversation today is about I just kind of want to talk about Somnium. I want to talk about how we make wine. I want to talk about sulfites, dry farm. What does that mean? I want to talk about organic and how we farm and integrity and what all that stuff means. So I think the first one that like sparked this idea for me was the conversation around. I follow so many different people that are such big fans of like dry farm wine, and I was like, all right, well, what the heck's that? And I know what dry farming is. It's, where you don't irrigate, which leads to lower sugar.
Supposedly. I mean, dry farming is basically not using water to grow grapes. So
Right.
you have, basically, you're more dependent on Mother Nature, and it's less, you have less control. So less man-made, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So there is churches of beliefs on which one is better.
Got it.
We use for Somnium, it's called controlled irrigation. So we basically replicate a little bit the rain at the right times during the season to get an optimal growth of the vineyard. But we still are in a deficient irrigation. So that means we put just enough water for the vines to function well, but still be stressed. So we're not irrigating. Basically, the big difference is people that irrigate to do large crops.
Yeah.
And to push the vines.
Yeah.
Here we're such in a harsh environment. It's so rocky with the hillside.
And they also do that to plump them up, because when you're selling, so there are a lot of people that make wine and they sell it. They're just selling bulk. They're selling, per ton, price per ton is like the lingo. And so if you have a vineyard and you're making, if you have 50 tons that comes off your property, but then if you drop fruit, all of a sudden you don't have 50 tons anymore. You can't sell nearly as many tons. So it's also about the quality. So that's why quality wine is more expensive, because you're purposely throwing wine in the garbage by cutting it off the vine. When do we drop fruit?
We drop it twice in the year, actually.
Twice.
We do it early. We do a first pass early in the season when it's very small clusters. Mm-hmm. And then we do another pass when the clusters change color at Parisian, just to select and be more homogeneous. So the clusters that are a little bit green that have a hard time turning, we remove them.
Okay.
So the first one is just really to position them so they are nicely aerated, well exposed. I think what you were saying about different types of farming, especially with Sauvignon, we are in the logic of concentration to get something that is richer, riper, more concentrated. So everything we do is in a sense of selection, making the wine a little more concentrated every time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we select the best fruit, and we only grow so many fruit per vine instead of trying to grow as many fruit as we can.
So as an example, so when you go look at a vineyard, and most all vineyards trellis the wine. So the rootstock grows up, it comes to like a T, and that's called trellising. I'm not going to get too nitty gritty on the details. That's good enough for most of us. And so how many clusters would normally, so a cluster is a group of grapes. So like the cluster of grapes. What you see in your grocery store when you buy your cluster, and you're like, oh, there's a cluster of big, huge, plump, watered grapes. How many clusters normally grow off of each side?
So usually
if you didn't drop any.
If we didn't grow, it's usually 10 to 12, and we'll get it down to 8 to 10. And what I like to say is basically one cluster of grapes, one bunch of grapes will make a glass of wine, and one vine will make a bottle of wine. And that's usually a good math. If you look at it, and that's how it's balanced.
So it's normal. So it can be up to like 12 clusters per side of the trellis. So each root will grow about 24 clusters, and we end up dropping down from like a dozen down to 8 clusters.
Correct.
Right. So I mean that's how much fruit's getting dropped that could turn over and make wine. But the point is to make really, really good wine. And so you drop the fruit to concentrate it. So let's go on to the next thing, which is something that was important to me, and I think it's going to be an interesting conversation. And this is the topic of organic. And we at Somnium, we farm organic. We have the whole time. The certifications are lengthy, and it takes I think 3 years before you actually qualify and get the certification. And so, but in the conversation, it's like, okay, so we make the estate that's 100% estate wine. It's organic, obviously, then. And then the red label is still like 85% estate and 15% Merlot that we buy. And so for that 15% that we buy, I said, is it possible to source organic Merlot so that we can call it still organic? And then that led to a whole conversation. And so he's like, what makes you think organic is better or healthier or cleaner in any way than not? And so why would non-organic wine be any better?
Yes, so I mean it's the whole problem of certification, and then who are you buying from and what are you buying? It's in the realm of food, for example, organic food should be better, but is processed organic fruit better than a reasonably farmed tomato? And so for me that's always the reasoning is like, are we buying a label? Are we buying how people behave and how much attention they put? So I have another estate where we farm organically, but we're not certified because I reserve the right to use a chemical application, and we did it 4 years ago. So we could fit into the organic. But if I have a big problem, I want to use a little heavier arsenal. Sure,
but people that are organic could still do essentially they can still do a shitty job.
Exactly, and that's for me the limitation is when you're limited with the resources you have.
Yeah.
And so you might be overusing copper, or you might overusing sulfur because you're in a difficult area,
sulfur, sulfites,
and sulfite. So you might be basically toxic.
Yeah.
For the soil, you might be toxic for the
just
plant.
So you can get one certification, you trade it for another. Yeah. So the point of a lot of the point of this conversation is just talk about the level of integrity that we operate at, from naturally irrigating when the rain comes to organically farming to with integrity, right? Like we do it the right way, and to
then it continues in the winery where we use like our cleanliness very drastic, so we use as little sulfur as we can. So we control our bacteria, we control our yeast, we have healthy fermentation, so we have healthy wine in the end. And for me, the less you touch it, the more natural the process is. To remind people is wine is a natural product of grapes. We're just in the middle trying to control everything, but